Hello everyone, how you guys doing? Welcome back to the official NickWalshTV channel. Welcome back to more spin and go action. How you guys doing? So another Tuesday has arrived. We're going live. We are going to play some $25 spin and goes. We are still planning on playing something like 10,000 spin and goes this year, which is what we're working on right now. And I hope you guys had a fantastic weekend. I do intend on streaming more frequently throughout the week as we get more into this year. As you guys know, if you haven't following along, I am in the midst of doing a lot of business behind the scenes. So those of you that know me very well will know that I'm starting a company to sell Bloody Marys in the United Kingdom. We are making lots of very important steps and progress, but we are now at the crux of the thing. You know, we got to start making the Bloody Marys now. We wanted to outsource this, but the outsourcing isn't looking like it's going to be a thing, mostly because we think that people kind of suck and we kind of want to do it ourselves. And as a result, we're looking at doing it ourselves, which is very complicated because if you want to make food for the public, it's very complicated. But it's just a challenge. And once we overcome this stage, I'm sure we're going to have a really good time with it. And I hope you guys will come along on that journey as well. So I have been sort of squirreling away behind the scenes working on these bits. And that means that I've been, doing my streams. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm doing my hours. But I would like to be online more often with you guys working away at our total. So why don't we take a look at our results so far. And then we'll have a little chat about kind of where we're at right now. Over here. So this is our graph so far this year. This is a chip graph. This shows the chips won over hands played. We are digging our way out of this big ugly downswing that we are in, but we are still not in the zone that I would like to be overall. I believe that in the last couple sessions and last couple weeks, we've made a lot of tweaks to what we're doing, and we're heading in that direction. I have no doubt at this point that we're going to get to a respectable chip EV by the time we get to the end of this challenge. We've only played something like 2,000 games so far total. We are now almost a quarter of the way through the year, and we need to be playing more volume, basically. So 8, 16, 24. Let me do some math here really quick, guys. So we want to play something like 833 games a month, and we're currently sitting at around 2,000 games in the middle of April. So we're probably about 1,000 games out right now of our pace. My intention while I'm in Monte Carlo, which I am attending this year, by the way, is to play a couple hundred games a day offline. So I think we can catch up. I think by the end of April, we will be caught up. It is only the 21st now, so we're not to the very, very end of April just yet. And then we'll have more time to get locked in after Monte Carlo, as it is anyway. But I wanted to let you guys know what happened earlier today. So I was trying to play some more volume in that same vein. Today we played a session, and we did not run good, guys. We did not run good. We ended up down $600, playing $25 spins. We did have a negative chip EV, but I have to say that from here to here, I played like 4 games where I had 2 pair versus straight in like twice in one game, times 2. So definitely losing chips in those spots. And also to the point of the chip EV thing, if you are losing your all-ins early game, it negates the chips that you would win in the future. So when you're bombing like this, it's really difficult to have a positive chip EV because you're just not getting heads up and you're not going to actually win those chips in EV when you get there. So this is what we're working on for today, and hopefully we can make this into an upswing because this was fucking grim. And we actually ended up playing like 56 games. So like I said, getting through the volume, catching up with our pace to try and get to 10K by the end of the year. But gross. So with that in mind, let's remember that we've come quite a long way since the start of the merge, and that we're doing a lot right, and we're just currently in a very small section of a much larger session. And let's get into it. Okay, cool. So game numero uno. Let's go. Raksha is asking, are you doing remote comms from Monte Carlo? I'm doing live comms. Live comms. I'll be there from the... I will be there from the 2nd until the 10th, another extended stay. You can play in Monaco, yes. It's not UK license. It's just the .com license, which is the same license that the UK runs under, I believe. All right, game number 1, 2 regs. Let's do it. But no, you can play on stars in Monaco. I have done it before, unless something has changed that I'm unaware of. Not a whole lot to be done here. Let's just get out of the way. Same thing here. Same thing here. Let's get some hands marked as well. King 6, can we 3-bet jam King 6 hearts there? I don't know why that's... No. I mean, we'll mark it anyway, but I'm almost positive that's only works when you're deeper. Filter for today. I don't want to keep looking at today's graph because it's really ugly. It's making me sad. Oh, that's why I turned that off. All right, we'll just start marking and we'll go from there. Hello, Pure Gill. What's up, buddy? Me and Pure Gill have been playing the Baldur's Gate streets. It's been a lot of fun. We've actually, this was the Baldur's Gate experience that I thought I was getting when I kind of signed up, like when I bought the game originally. This is kind of how I imagined it would be played and how much fun it would be. But prior to this, never could like quite get into it, you know, the way I kind of thought we might. But me and Gilly have been smashing it up. It's been a lot of fun. As far as I know, we've not been wiped a single time. As far as I know, we have not been wiped a single time. Let's try this. We'll call a shove if we need to. I think having jacks with the jack of diamonds, like it negates a lot of like the big combo draws that we're concerned about. So going small, I think, is actually kind of cute. This is still fine. Obviously, this is going to be right on the cusp, but I'm pretty sure we can still call here. I'm playing position. Definitely a fold. Mr. Swain, what's up? Good to see you, mates. Over on YouTube. Hello. No, Mr. Swain, it was King 6 suited. So we had King 6 suited, and it was like an open from 12. I can't remember what the exact stack depth was, but I keep forgetting that we can 3-bet jam some of our suited kings against his stale from 15, but I think as we get shallower, it's less of a move. I think we were too shallow. I think it was just a fold. Not quite there. No, we're too shallow now, I think. These aren't good hands, guys. These are not good hands. Pure Gil brings the experience. I mean, he says he brings the experience. It was me saving his ass against Minthara. Gil got his whole squad wiped. I'm there. One player left on about 1 HP. Miraculously revive the whole squad. Miraculous savior. Managed to not only bring the entire team back, but then summon 3 ogres and the Watcher. They nuked Minthara. We proceeded to nuke the Watcher. It was amazing. It was truly, truly magnificent. I didn't realize how strong the ogres are as well. I mean, haven't you ever seen Shrek, Nick? Come on. Easy Game has changed his avatar here. We got to change ours, I think. We need some run good again. Right, what should the picture be? I feel like there were some nice ones recently. Oh, I got these ones. Cover photos. Here we go. All right, what do we think, guys? This one might be kind of fun. No good there. This one might be kind of fun. New profile picture on stars. This one also might be kind of fun. Not that one. 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 We've got that one currently. I don't know if I like this one. This one's kind of scary. Not that one. Okay, so maybe this one with Kenny. You probably won't be able to see it though. It'll be too wide, right? That might be kind of fun. I think we're gonna go for it here, guys. Let's go for the 2. Sorry, you can't even see the table, guys. I'm bluff leading the Queen 5 with the Queen of Diamonds. The new avatar should be the explosion. We've spoken about this before. I feel like the explosion would be good, but you got the res at the start, but I got the heals and then hit Minthara before running back to buying 2 resurrections. That's brilliant, mate. Okay, we might try and upload this one. Okay, let's go for the... Once we get here, the 2 is probably better against the reg. Cannot fold a tray, cannot fold a 4, cannot fold a 5. Ace 5 isn't a thing. 5-6 isn't a thing, therefore the value bet still exists. If we jam here, he's going to hero calls for the 4 for sure, right? We check the flop. Who is checking the flop with top pair? Yeah, against the reg, I think that's the better line. Against the unknown, you want to go smaller so that they call more often. Yeah, you're right. We should make a note, Mr. Swain. That was kind of a punt, wasn't it? Yeah, we'll make a note of that now. How much of a punt is that? How much of a punt is this? This was at 15, right? Is that 14? I would say that's pretty loose. I actually don't remember the exact range. Mr. Swain says you look good there. Thank you. Okay, so here's the thing, guys. Here's the thing. The explosion avatar, the nuke avatar. I think that would be really funny, and I know that you guys would get it. I feel like given the conflict in the world right now, though, I don't want to put that out in the universe. So, okay, one sec. Let's just, we can do this together. All right, so let's see if we'll do this one together. Here, guys. Rake it in. All right, new image. I'm thinking this one's pretty good. Let's try this one. Got to zoom out a bit. If you zoom out too far, it's a bit more. Okay, this is pretty good. So you want to leave a bit of headroom though, because that stupid thing falls over the top, doesn't it? Oh, we can't do that much more headroom. Maybe like this. Maybe as close as possible. So it cuts off a little bit. I mean, you can't tell if I'm doing this or I'm doing this, which is kind of cool. Maybe a bit more width. This is PokerStars character creation 101. All right, here we go. We're doing that one. Okay. That would be a fun one as well, Raksha. Actually, I should have considered that one. If it was animated, even better. That'd be so funny. Yo, Avi, what's up? Avi Gable, man. Long time no see. How you doing? Yeah, Undersea Monkey. I don't mind having some booms on the stream, but like, you know, I don't know. Too many booms in the world right now. Against the king of poker. People never shove the right range here, though. Oh, the king of poker. No, come on. Can we really fold against the king of poker? Cuspy. If he's got ace tray, we're probably doing fine here. In the 2x multi, I think we got to follow the rules. I've been on Stars for 22 years and have had precisely 2 avatars the whole time. I mean, you're missing a trick, buddy. You're missing a trick. Right. I won't get distracted today. That's right. Tom understands. Okay, next game. We will try and win some all-ins today. Four and a four, baby. Avi says, been a long year in Israel with missile sirens, running to the safe room and all that, but my family as well. That's what counts, buddy. Thank you for updating us. Yeah, that's scary stuff, dude. Very scary stuff. I hope everyone's okay. And I hope that people don't have to be afraid anymore very soon. So this is what it'll look like. That's pretty good. I'm into this. This is actually not too bad. The live sticker always kind of sticks out. I'm sure this still isn't right though. I must be at 1 million hands by now. Booked my trip to Los Angeles and Vegas for a couple small WSOP tournaments. Looking forward to that. There you go. Great. That sounds like exactly what you need, buddy. You need something to look forward to like that. I will be in Vegas as well this summer. I'm planning on going in June, I think. I've got flights booked. I think I should know. I'm going in June 26th to the 4th. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to that. A bunch of friends joining us. What do you have your eyes on? What are you going to play while you're in Vegas? Cash in my chips. Cash in my chips. Cash in my chips. Cash in my chips. I gotta say, guys, the new setup is still pretty sweet. I really like this mic. This mic actually sounds very good considering the space is quite tall and echoey. Hello, 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 everybody. Thank you very much for the raid, Mr. Seb. How you guys doing? Welcome to the Nick Walsh TV channel. We're here. We're playing Spin and Goes all day today. Talking strategy. We're going to mark hands for review. We're going to do a review session at the end with some cool technology. If you guys are into spins, stick around. If you're not into spins, stick around anyway because we're going to have some fun. And if you have any questions, get them in the chat. How was Seb's stream today? Juan, thank you for the follow. Brian Hickman on YouTube says, hey, Nick, do stars now have 15 and 25 big blind spins, or did they get rid of 25? On .com, they merged the two. It's variable based on multiplier. Heart. Yeah, there we go. It's a bit more like it. A little bit of run good from Mr. Seb. Just a smasher here with the A6. No need to do anything else. Against the unknown player, we will make some pretty big adjustments, though. There is a 500 Nolan Beholden with first place. Oh, yeah, right. No, I know the one. And a 1K PLO. I need to play more PLO. I really enjoy PLO. We're going to do a little delayed bet here against this guy. Bet the turn. I wonder if the WSOP will ever implement a bracelet spins tournament. I would love to see that. The thing is, the WSOP won't have that much affiliation to spin and goes in general. Like, I'm not even sure if WSOP.com offers spins. But they might do a three-handed thing eventually. I think that'd be kind of cool. Pocket eights is a monster here for 3.5. Down to 3 big blinds. Definitely a push here. No doubt about it. Not a great turn. 6 big blinds. Going back into his stack. This is definitely a call if we push. Wish me luck, guys. And it should be a big flop for us. But alas, it is not. Yeah, King 6 is far, far, far too good to fold there. King 6 with the spades is kind of a monster there for the 6 big blinds. Yeah, there's just no way out. Got to do it. Oh, okay. No. Sorry. This is bottom of the deck, very shallow. This one will run for around the 5 big blind mark, so 3.5 should be in there. Somehow we end up dominated when we have Jack 4 offsuit. But we're still going to be all in here every time. Definitely a call. All right, here we go. We're dominated again somehow. We end up less than 4 big blinds effective on 2 occasions. Dominated on both occasions, pretty unlucky. Avi says, I played the 1K PLO Mystery Tournament, was really soft, finished 90 out of 5,000 my first listing on the Headed Mob. Nice. That is a really, really deep run. Yeah, man, we'll go back and this time make it FT. That'll be worth a lot of money. 2x multiplier, unknown in the big blind. Let's put the steal in here. Pocket nines. Pretty monstrous here. Yeah, the big steal with the A6 of diamonds I think isn't really a thing, but this is not crazy to go broke with A6 diamonds here. I'd say possibly shove material, possibly just steal normal. The sizing there I think is a bit too big, but generally all good. I wonder if PokerStars in Ontario can follow suit when they launch with FanDuel soon. We'll have to wait and see, buddy. I wish I had more insight into that kind of thing. Let's do the big bet here. King of Poker, my nemesis. My nemesis. Okay, so do we bet this flop? I think we probably do. Let's try and go kind of prohibitively big. I think we have the components to make this one work. If he shoves, we still have to fold. It's fine. What a life the King of Poker leads. Pretty hard to win this one. Can't fold flop. Can we get to showdown with a deuce? $10-9, let's go. All right, 50 bucks in the bank. Next game. Let's just keep the volume flowing here, guys. Just keep the volume flowing here. Let's try and get out of the downswing we find ourselves in this morning. Let's turn on the merge, apply, disable. Nayama Sensei, good to see you. The new spin format is so brutal. Played 1K games this month with a 33 chip EV average and still 47 binds down. Is it the same to you, Nick, or you have managed to make it work? So it's just going to take so much more volume than that, mate. It's just going to take so much more volume. And it has been a struggle, absolutely. I mean, Nayama, I don't know if you followed too closely the previous challenge, but it's been tough. It's just a completely different animal. You can play a lot more volume much faster, so you do unlock rewards pretty quick, which is kind of cool. And obviously that buffers when you're having worse sort of downswings to a certain degree. But I would say also, yeah, the swings are just brutal. Overall, I've become a much better poker player and a better spin and go player as a result of the changes, because it's forced me to really study the spots that I wasn't very good at from before. I personally really miss the old format. I just found it a more enjoyable experience. I felt like there was more play and it just made it more interesting. But I'm trying my best, and Nayama, of course, you can see all my results as we go throughout the year. I'll be sharing my profit and loss, including rewards, as we progress through the 10,000 games we plan on playing this year. $250,000 worth of poker played this year. Ideally, if we can get there. What's up, Dean? Good to see you, buddy. But yeah, Nayama, in general, yes, it's brutal. It's brutal. It works in both directions. I know people that, have had huge upswings. In the same way that 47 down with the 33 chip EV is a big downswing as well. Hey, Florin, what's up? Good to see you. I hope things are going better than what you posted earlier on Discord. I hope so as well, mate. We'll see. I hope so as well, my friend. I would say that this morning's session was actually pretty good, though. Like, I know the chip EV was flat, like almost break even, slightly below break even, but we, man, Jesus. I mean, if he shoves kings here, we're still going to get it in. We get lucky. That's nice. This is obviously just a setup. At 10 big blinds effective, ace-8 is never folding. King's never folding. But, like, this morning we held our nerve. We played a decent amount of volume. And like I said at the start of today's stream, if you are bombing in chips that hard, it's almost impossible to have a positive chip EV because you're not getting into the get part of the game where you win the most EV. And you're also being denied the opportunity to win the rest of the chips, right? If in the first 5 seconds of the game, you're all in with the best hand and you lose, let's say it's like ace king versus pocket fives. If you lose that flip, you don't just lose a few chips in EV, but you also lose the opportunity to play for the rest of the chips on the table. So during like really big downswings, if you can still find flatness, you're probably battling pretty hard still. Um, 10-7, you absolutely probably should play there. In the 2x, 3x multis, I'm going to take him out, though. Brian Hickman says, I find that overbet bluffing or semi-bluffing can work well in specific spots against certain opponents. I mean, yeah, absolutely. 100% agree. The other thing I would say, though, is, so we're playing the 25s this year. So we moved up from the 10s to the 25s at the end of last year, just as it made sense. Not about bankroll or like anything like that. It's just strictly because we did the $10 challenge. Now we're going to do 25s. What I would say is the $25 on stars right now are very, very, very reg heavy. In particular, during the days where we're actually playing on stream, in the middle of the day, we're encountering the same players at a very high frequency. King of Poker all the time, Sir Blackroll all the time. Two very good spin and go players, and that is not conducive to winning tons of chips. But sometimes we get lucky with the seat selection. I'm married to the cards, but the cards don't love me back. Dean MC says, I know I've missed a few days. Have the starting chips decreased? Is that what the part of this conversation is about? So not recently, no. We're just talking about, generally speaking, since the merge that the chips have decreased. Yeah, Tom, we're at about 2K right now. Nyama says, even when you open the charts, the moment you go from 8 to 9 big blinds, the strategy is just shove half the deck, fold the other. I mean, it's a bit more complicated than that, but yeah, I know, I understand what you're feeling and where you're coming from. The edge is just smaller, full stop. You need to play more volume in order for your edge to show. I know very good players that just have gone through like thousands of games showing almost no skill whatsoever. Like, you know, really, really good, talented players who just are not showing up with the numbers that they should. And then they have like an absolutely stellar month the next month, you know? Yeah, in the 2x multipliers and the 3x multipliers, you know, you're just gonna end up in those spots much faster. Oh, Dean, this is the Spingo promotion. Basically, it's like a Spingo card, and you got to fill up the slots. Those numbers are randomly generated. Wow. The numbers are randomly generated. You fill out the board, but I've already completed my Spingo board. Let me show you what it looks like. So yeah, you basically got a card like that, and the numbers are randomly generated. You had to fill it all out. I completed this within a month, though. It was pretty valuable in terms of rakeback, though. It was good. We're not putting that session into the app. It brings bad luck. I agree. But yeah, Naima, look, just generally speaking, the 2x and the 3x multipliers are getting to that stage where there is a lot of push fold, and then that comes down to card distribution quite a lot. What I have discovered is that the game at those stack depths has so much more complexity than what we've simplified it. Like, yes, you can open up the charts and you can take a look at, like, you know, first act, like what you're going to do, but the post flop and the pre flop from out of position is quite interesting when your opponents are playing correctly or incorrectly, and how to exploit that. So there is edge to be had there. It's just a very small one that shows over thousands of games rather than hundreds of games. And again, look, like I said, I'm not defending the change. I actually really campaign for a deeper stacked format, or simply a return to normal speed spins in general, just because I prefer it. I think it's better, but what I prefer and what people prefer is different, right? A lot of people did sincerely enjoy Flash and that ultra speed. But also don't forget that when we're playing deeper stack games, we do have more to play with. So there's chips to be won there, and obviously when you're playing for more money, there's more play in the game. Brian says, spins have taught me more about post flop than any other style of poker. Having a background and heads up will help spins as well. Correct, yeah. I mean, when I've really locked in to learn how to play spins, those were the times I improved at poker the most. But yeah, Dean, the starting stack hasn't changed recently. It did change last year. Basically, 2x and 3x multipliers are much faster than they used to be. As you start with fewer big blinds, and the clocks go up much faster. Against the unknown player, can definitely bet here. Can also definitely check here. All right. Yeah, the Spingo promotion was very high value. Having a queen here is kind of relevant. Cool. So in the 2x and 3x multipliers, the other thing you have to remember, Nyama, is a lot of the slower lines. So like if you're looking at, for example, blind v blind, 15 big blinds effective, you might look up a certain combo and try and learn how to play it like optimally. But often a lot of the value that you get from taking a line alternative to just push fold in the faster multipliers is negated by the hands and the time that you lose at deeper stacks when you go into the next hand. So it's kind of a future game thing that's difficult to estimate exactly, but it's kind of our current theory that in the 2x and 3x multipliers, if you're blind v blind, playing close to push fold is going to be the most efficient way of like getting the EV that you want from that spot, but also moving very swiftly onto more profitable positions, for example, on the button in position multi-way, and also playing that at a deeper stack where you can have more moves and have a greater edge. Yeah, Dean, that's what they're referencing. Nothing has changed since then. and I'll let it burn. Straight me. All right, let's take a look at this. So this one is the 8-7 jam is going to be very infrequent. But I did roll low, so I rolled like a 4 there. Which is why I'm making the move. Why is my replayer not opening? So this is infrequent. In fact, actually, we've studied this one. So the jam is going to be fine. You don't want to do it every time. It's going to be like 20% or 10% or something like that. But we rolled super low, so I decided to play this as a jam versus limp, which is going to be totally fine. If we look at the advanced version, my guess is that we probably want to raise this to something like 4 big blinds rather than have it be all in, which is something I should have considered before we moved on. But I'm going to mark this for review just to double check my thought process here. I'm pretty sure that if we look in the standard chart pack without the big size, it's going to push a small frequency. And then if we look at the advanced version, it's going to do large ISO at a small frequency. And the large ISO is probably superior, but again, that's not a move we're doing every time at that stack depth. I think we will do it some of the time though. Naima says, thanks for your input, Nick. Always great talking to you. Right now, I'm repeating the same mantra for myself. Like with this cheap EV, I'll end up winning eventually. And that cope keeps me going. Hey, man, that's my whole life. But yeah, I feel like it, dude. Hello. Thank you. My whole, you're describing my entire life, buddy. The downswings are always motivation. And downswings always motivate to study more. That's a really good way to approach it. A lot of people become discouraged by the downswings, but it is a good opportunity to look at your game more. Brian says, recreational players can mostly never beat 25 big blind spins unless they get lucky. That's why the change was made. So I definitely don't know that was 100% of the reason. To be honest, I don't know 100% exactly the motivation behind all of it. I do think that there is a certain amount of truth to that in general. I think that a recreational player playing against 2 very good spin and go players would lose much more frequently than they imagine, right? A lot of players would play spins and go, oh, it's spin and goes, it's stupid, it's just gambling, there's no skill. And then be surprised at how infrequently they would win, against very skilled players. But again, that's more. It's also to do with their sort of ignorance towards how much of an edge you can gain in spins in general. I am slowly getting used to the new format, but absolutely just. I mean, look, like if you look at my results, Brian. So just to give you some numbers right now. So from the start of this year, I obviously track all my results, but I also isolate the spinning goes where I have a 10x multiplier or higher. So if you hit a 10x or higher, it is a reg speed game or longer. So it's the closest thing we get to playing a reg speed in the new merged player pool, right? So I have played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 10x multipliers or higher with 125x in there. And I'm winning 66.67% of those games outright, and I'm cashing in 90.48. So in the 10x multipliers, obviously we have 2x. The second place gets 3x, they're buying or whatever. And that's great. That means, when we're playing for more money, we obviously have a much greater edge than our opponents. I mean, even playing against some very good regs, we are running above expectation in those games. So I'm not saying that number is sustainable in over the course of 1,000 samples, but we definitely are playing deeper stacked spin and goes better than our opponents in general, right? What I would say though is that also makes me kind of sad because it reminds me of how much of an edge we had in the $25 spin and goes. And it does make me kind of long to go back to those days because I preferred one tabling the longer format, even though it took, 10 minutes to finish, 15 minutes to finish, and just feeling like there was more poker in there. But we're going to try and adapt. I mean, part of the challenge that we're doing this year, part of the continuation of the spin and go challenge that we started last year, playing $50,000 worth of spin and goes at $10. Part of that is trying to figure out how well we can adapt to this and whether or not we can make this really work for us. I still think there's a lot that can be improved upon. That's kind of what we're going to be focusing on this year on stream. Every session isn't just I'm playing volume or I'm just going to do my best. Every session is like we're going to mark hands that we're unsure about and we're going to try and find how to improve and like maximally, play every spot to the best of our ability. I have a fairly strong suspicion that with sufficient volume, by the time we get to 10K, we will have a very small ROI. Spin and goes has always been a small ROI game, like no doubt about it. But I do think that we're on the brink of kind of cracking the code for the merge player pool. At which point, possibly play higher stakes, try and get into the higher rakeback tiers. Like at the moment, we're still battling through the tiers like the same as everyone else. We're only on gold chests, for example. I would expect to be kind of hitting select plus pretty quickly in the event that we moved up or played more offline for that matter. I know a lot of people hitting select plus even at the 25s. We're gonna call a shove here. Otherwise, we're going to try and milk the Queen Tray of Hearts. We ended up getting called by Ace King with the Ace of Hearts, so obviously that size worked out nicely for us. Against the Reg and the 3x multi, we'll play this as a push. If I wasn't playing the role of Spin and Go ambassador / PokerStars ambassador, which I love. I really feel grateful and happy and just like overjoyed that I get to do what I enjoy for a living. If I were to take a step back, for example, from streaming, or take a step back from doing more commentary or something like that, and have more time to dedicate to just grinding full time, I think quite easy to hit very high rakeback tiers, even at the $10, $25 stakes, even at the fives. I'm sure there are $5 players who are hitting, select plus volume, which is kind of crazy when you imagine how much volume needs to be played. But people are very dedicated to playing high volumes in this game for sure, even at lower stakes. That's a lot of mental overload for me, though, I'm afraid. Where are we at? This is still a push, I think. Let's mark this one for review. But I'm pretty sure the 10-4 of clubs actually goes here. We're not going to win the all-in, but obviously the fold is what we're looking for there. Can someone look this up, please? Just double check while we're on here. 10-4 suited. We shoved 10 big blinds basically. Although we raised to 10, our opponent was shallower than that, right? Yeah, our opponent is more like, call it 10. It's 9.83. We can get back in this game. Thank you very much for the follow, Daedalus and Juan as well. Juan joined us after Peace and Love Raid. Thank you guys. How you doing today, Daedalus? Yeah. I hope it makes you happy. Got a weird feeling about this hand. Ooh, I'm tempted to do this. We're blocking the straight. I don't think he's going to have an ace. He could have 2 pair, but I think probably the overbet, though. The overbet is probably begging for a call. Nice hand. The merge always makes me think of the burn in Trek Discovery or the flux in Doctor Who. It does sound a bit, you know, the merge, you know. Clubs. I hope it makes you happy. Ooh, and if you don't. This looks like a slightly better game. We know De Oro. Check flop, full pot, lead, turn, draw, block. Okay, so De Oro, we have marked in blue. We have a hand played here that I think is... We have some hands, some quirks marked here that I think are worth noting. But nothing damning particularly. I would say De Oro is probably one of these regs that just had some funny quirks that we wanted to make notes of. Might be worth doing that, to be honest, at this stage. And then we'll just remember these for later. I think that's why the note-taking is important with the colors, right? If you just mark somebody as, you know, I think that they might be a rec or whatever, as soon as you mark them as a recreational player or whatever, and you don't remember exactly why you made the note, you could be mislabeling. A lot of times I'll start marking things that I think are a bit unusual on a player, and if it's so unusual that it's just not good, then obviously we can start putting them in that category. More inexperienced players. So yeah, tomorrow, guys, I'm going to go for a little walk, a little stroll in the morning. I'm going to walk up over 7 dials, and I'm going to head down towards London Road. In fact, I'm heading more towards the Lewis Road area. And I'm going to go take a look at some commercial kitchens for our Bloody Mary company. Brian says, if I'm reading my Nash push full chart correctly, you only need 5.2 big blinds to shove 10-4 suited. Maybe it was too wide then. Is that right? I might have to look that one up myself. I'm going to do like an oversized steal here. And then we're going to probably give up pretty quick on this board. Against the complete unknown. No, this board's too coordinated. Nice hand, buddy. Kind of like trying to simulate kind of a fake all-in or a perceived all-in there against the player that might just see the big size and the short stacks and just kind of give up more often. Nice. Very live. Very live. Woo! Very live indeed. Is a funny way of showing. Yeah, blind v blind against the reg. The king 4 is mandatory here. King 10 against king 4, just an annoying setup, really. Brian says, I try to play a little tighter than push full chart. You always should. You always should. So the charts are created in a way where you're finding as close to break even as possible at the bottom end. So shoving a little bit tighter. The thing is, the shoving is very effective because people never call correctly. So you don't want to adjust the shove that much. You don't want to adjust your shoving ranges too much because if you're shoving the bleeding edge of what you're allowed to shove, it will outperform Nash by a significant margin. You'll win a lot more than what is projected, right? But in the calling department, you want to be a lot tighter against certain opponents. In the calling department, you want to, against an unknown, you want to call a lot tighter. Even against a reg, you probably want to like take like a big blind or two off, depending on the opponent. Against the regs, you can just look it up. It's pretty easy just to find the answer. But don't be too stingy on the shoving side of things, because that is usually a license to print at the very, very shallow stacks. But also don't assume that Nash is what you want to do. For the most part, you want to deviate from Nash until we get to around 6 big blinds, 5 big blinds or below. Ed K says, set myself a challenge and some targets, playing a little bit of live cash last week just to change things up a bit. I wish I played more live cash, Ed. I think live cash games are very, very profitable. Depending on the game, of course, but even some of the worst games I've played in, there's always a good opportunity. What's up, Danko? Good to see you. Hope you're well. Ed K says, just out of interest, how many spins did people play before finishing this bingo card? I don't know what the number was, Ed, but I cleared it really quickly. There's a chance I was just running good with my numbers, but I think it was, less than 500 games. Google says 8 to 13 big blinds for 10-4 suited. Perhaps I'm reading my chart wrong. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's quite deep. It's deeper than you think, Brian. We can pause after this game and look it up if you want. I was getting burned yesterday by min-raising stuff like ace-9 suited and getting shoved down by crap like king-4 off. This was 9-handed. Wow. That does sound brutal. Moore is another top reg. Very good spin player. Dean loves live cash at the Hippo. I love live cash at the Hippo. Okay, heads up against the regular. The regular. All the time, why you do all the same things? I think we'll start betting. Base Logic, good to see you. Hit the jack. Is it even possible to lose? Can we value bet? Can we value bet? Should we value bet? Thank you, Brian. See you in a bit. We'll look it up in a sec. I'm pretty sure 10-4. I think 10-4 might be Nash, but it's GTO Steel. Let's do a raise here. Let's do one of these. What's up, OAP? Good to see you. Not much. I was just saying I was going to, tomorrow morning, I'm going to go take a look at some kitchens in Brighton for our Bloody Mary company. Possibly find ourselves a space to start making some cans. Waves at the American Brit streamer and his eminent sword swingers. Hello, QB. Okay, 2.5 to make you laugh. Can Moors give us any action? All right, that's pretty good. That's usually pretty good, as long as there's no 6. And against the reg, we'll just play the pusher here. Pretty standard. Of course, they wake up with it. We get them in the box. We get them in the box, and then they cause us trouble. So shoving this is totally fine. Let's just go for the push. Suited connectors there, very powerful pushers. This is a very rare min raise with this hand. Immediately punished. We're looking at 4.25 ISO. Into a fable. Pretty straightforward. Running square into kings. Yeah, pretty much unavoidable, but yeah, we're on the wrong side of it again, guys. I was really hoping for a bit more leeway than that, given the fact that we've had to fight our way tooth and nail to get out of the doldrums. We were stuck in there for a minute. Let's go again. Undersea Monkey says, I have it in my head that the Bloody Marys are going to be alcohol free. Am I just imagining it? No, that's right. We are going to sell Virgin Marys or a Virgin Bloody Mary mix. However, we will have sort of suggestions on how to serve with various alcohols. We need to speak to a lawyer about the legality of all this as well, right? Because our intention is not for this to be targeted at children anyway. I mean, I think drinking tasty tomato juice is something that kids should be allowed to do. But we certainly don't want our marketing to appear that we are promoting underage drinking or anything like that. I would say, generally speaking, tomato juice is not something that you sell to kids, though. Kids don't drink tomato juice, really, generally. Not a lot that we can do there. I don't think we can fold the flop. I don't really think we can fold the flop, so what are we supposed to do? That's a nice spot. Okay, two players pretty unbalanced here now in their stack depths. But yeah, Undersea Monkey, the idea is we're gonna sell a very good, very solid Bloody Mary. And that will be the base for a lot of other experimentation that we will promote. So this is a bit of a weird parallel, but do you guys remember a website that was called IKEA Hacks? Basically, it was a website where people could post. We will call a shove here if we need to. Wish me luck, guys. I'm gonna mark this one for review, but I'm almost positive against the reg we call with most of our suited kings at 10 big blinds effective, and then we call the shove with all of them. This one's quite abstract. Like you definitely do not want to be doing this against unknown players, but against the regs, you just follow the rules. You just do the computer stuff. I'll mark that one for review later. Kids certainly don't drink tomato juice with Worcester sauce and a sprig of celery as a rule. It's not ideal. So basically, if you guys remember a website called IKEA Hacks, basically it was like a community of people who got together, and if you bought different packs of IKEA, you could combine it into something that was like not intended, right? So people were like, oh, if you buy the bookshelf and you buy the bed, you can assemble a bed using just the stuff inside the packs that would actually have like bookshelves built into the side. Or if you buy the bookshelf, you can assemble the bed, and then the bookshelf will like sit on the top of the bed, and like, you know, you have like a table, bedside table situation. I don't know. Anyway, IKEA got wind of the fact that this was happening, and they sued them and they shut them down, even though like it was a really cool place where people promoted the sale of IKEA furniture, right? Their idea was that, oh, it's you're using our products in a way where they're not suggested. You're using the IKEA name. It makes it sound like this is official. If you follow these instructions and somebody sits on their bed and the bed breaks and they hurt themselves, we're going to be liable. I kind of get that. I kind of like, there were some IKEA hacks that were like how to make bunk beds with like products that were not intended to be bunk beds. That seems legitimately dangerous. That's like that scene out of Step Brothers or whatever. But what I want to do is have our website be a place where the community can say, oh, I used Reaper & Co. and I made this using, you know, this hot sauce, and it was the best thing I ever tasted. We really want to like promote that community side of things and get people thinking of our product as like a very good starting point, rather than it being, you know, needing to be like a complete product every single time, even though it is absolutely delicious and doesn't really need anything else. My baby left me out to dry. So for example, the other day, I don't know if you guys saw on my Instagram, but on Sunday I made a Bloody Mary using this. It was called Hellfire Piri Piri. It's a piri piri sauce that I bought from a South African importers here in Brighton. Looks very much the part. I'm pretty sure that it is actually made in Cape Town. And added that to our base Bloody Mary with some olives, some pickles, some biltong. And it was like just unbelievable, next level. And I honestly can imagine something like that sorting out a hangover so quick. Bruju said, I built my desk with an IKEA wooden slab. They jacked up the prices of everything that made the desks. I mean, look, that was the idea, yeah. People, you know, very clever people finding ways to make 2 packs of IKEA into some very, very sexy, like very sophisticated, very expensive looking furniture. My baby left me out to dry. Okay, we can call a raise here. We could probably arguably just get this in pre-flop as well. If it was a shove, we would have called. Let's try it. Let's try it. If we ever get a fold in this spot as well, it's pretty magical for us. If they just call it off with king 10, that's even better. All right, 8-5. Coming out swinging. King of Poker. The King of Poker for $75. Pretty magical stuff. Okay, we got a float. Nice answer. We have a gut shot, and we have queen high. There's no chance for folding this flop. Can we try and get queen high to showdown? I think a king probably bets twice here. This might be superior because we will get a 10-9-5 to fold some of the time. I think reg v reg, it's pretty plain he doesn't have an ace or a king here because I think both bet flop and turn in a limped pots. And just bet the flop I think is fine. For protection more than anything else, I think. Not folding yet. Zhao Zhao, thank you very much for the follow. So we get check raised on a easily check raisable board. 2.5 is a very interesting size on this turn. I suddenly feel like our opponent has a lot fewer bluffs now. This could also just be backdoor spades, though, legitimately. King of Poker. King of Poker. Let's mark the sevens for review. I think there is something to be learned there, but I do think against the reg, we kind of are expected to continue there. Against an unknown, they just won't have a bluff there ever, but regs will have plenty. Not tons, but enough, where sevens is kind of like mandatory continue. I would be surprised if you played an 8 in that fashion, so suddenly it's either a king or an air ball. So still a 5 is a straight. Still a 5. We'll have a little bluff here. Boombox Bloodies? No, we've got a name already. This is a rare ISO. Undersea Monkey says, I'm not normally a merry drinker, but I'll try these when they're available. I highly recommend you do exactly that, mate. The one thing I will say, Undersea Monkey, is we'll mark this one for review too. I'm pretty much 100% positive this is limp call against the King of Poker. You guys can see the equity there as well. We lose almost nothing in the exchange. So Undersea Monkey, part of this entire sort of operation, mission statement, whatever you want to call it, part of the entire thing is a lot of people that I've met, especially in the United Kingdom, definitely way more in the United Kingdom than anywhere else. A lot of people that I've met either absolutely love Bloody Marys, but they can only ever get a good one when they're in the States or they're at somewhere specific. Or they absolutely hate Bloody Marys, but they've literally never been in the same room as a good one in their life. They've never been within 6 miles of a good Bloody Mary, so they don't know. I know people who have said, I absolutely hate Bloody Marys, and then they've tried our Bloody Mary, and they're like, is this what it's supposed to taste like? This is amazing. I know people that have tried Bloody Marys for the first time, having never heard of them, and they're like, I would drink this every day. I know people that think that they like a good Bloody Mary, and then they try ours, and they're like, I've been drinking bad Bloody Marys this entire time, and I didn't know. So definitely anyone who is thinking they don't like it, or maybe they haven't tried one for a while, I would highly recommend trying the final product that we put out. This is our friend, Mr. Nazgul. All right, let's see if we can make some dosh. Boombox Bloodies does have a certain ring to it, though, Undersea Monkey. Against the reg, let's just do this. And the slammer. Oops. That was not the intention. But that works anyway. I think I'm someone who just never had a good one. The same goes for a lot of people with martinis in the UK. I had to teach the bar staff at my local casino how to do it properly. That's a really good example of one I agree with as well. I think martinis, although making a good martini is probably a lot simpler than making a good Bloody Mary, but it definitely in the same vein, yeah. People being like, oh, I hate martinis, but they've never had a good one. Okay, give me the chips. Give me the chips. Give me the chips. But yeah, if we do decide, I mean, I think we basically almost have completely decided to make these ourselves. Don't do it. Don't do it. If we do decide to make it ourselves, I'm excited about the prospect of being able to pivot and make different things very quickly and try different products, because I probably have three ideas for Bloody Marys, one being the original, one being the peri peri one being a South Korean sort of style or flavored one. South Korean flavors in there. And I think I can accomplish all of those quite readily. In fact, I think I've just solved it in my brain how we would do that. Woo! This might be the kind of board that they're check giving up on a bit more often, though. Okay, let's try this. See, leading this turn is really good in circumstances where you think your opponent is going to have more second pairs and bottom pairs that they're checking back. I'm going to try and trap him here. I'm going to try and trap him. I'm going to trap this guy. Don't miss the bet. No! He's got king high. All right, it's a good check. We did exactly what we're supposed to do here. We did the right thing. He just didn't want to fire. But yeah, I've got ideas for 3 Bloody Marys right away. And if we were to go down the more commercial route where we have it made for us, the process of getting that signed off and everything is very complicated. But if we do it ourselves, we have a lot more scope to try and do random things. I think I just had a master stroke on how to... What's the word? I think I just had a really good idea about how to do the South Korean one. But... no, I think I got it figured out. The South Korean one is going to be delicious, but also we want to do spice mixes as well. So we want to have like the spices that go on the rim of the glass, if that's your jam. It's not my jam. I actually really hate that. I think it takes away from the experience of the actual drink itself. It's too much, not balanced enough. But I also want to do some spice mixes for cooking at home as well. This is probably a call. We're beating one. We're beating the big one by a big margin. Cool. All right. I've been broke so long, winning feels like work. Now I rake it in. This guy, unlucky. He just almost win. I came to rake it in. Okay, we go again. So today, guys, I got to clock off a smidge early. My friend Jake Berry is going to come round to the flat around 4:30-ish. I'll play right up into the time he gets here, and then we'll sign off. That means we should probably start our review session a little bit earlier, I guess. Maybe we should start that at like 4 and hope for the best. But he's coming around to fix 2 very important things in the flat. Bullshit walks, now they get in. Once we hit this 9, can't help but feel like we're gonna call a bet on the turn. So our opponent will not fire an 8 on this river for value. They're not going to have tons of draws on this flop. Does the queen change much here? This is rough. This is rough, you guys. We absolutely can have the best hand here. Our opponent should theoretically have some floats on this flop that are just backdoor clubs, backdoor diamonds, backdoor spades, which they all have to bluff if we slow down. But they will have a king once in a while too. Rough one. Let's mark this one for review as well. I'd be interested to see if my assumptions are correct. This one's going to be close. This one's close. We have a really, really good hand on this turn. This is going to be very player dependent. Our opponents should have some 9x, but they won't necessarily play the 9 this way, but they might if they think that we're playing our hand slow like an 8. We're beating most 9s. Our opponents should theoretically still be floating queen high backdoor clubs, jack high backdoor clubs, especially if they have some sort of a straight draw to go with it, right? If they have like 6-7 of clubs here, they're still supposed to be in there. 6-7 would also have led the turn as a semi-bluff and then had to blast off river 2. Jack 10 with backdoor clubs, backdoor hearts, backdoor spades are in there as well. That's another pretty prime candidate. If there are floats against the one big blind continuation bet, this is close. I'm really interested to see what computer says about that one. Makes me want to cry a little bit because it's a big pot, but there we go. I do think this is the kind of player that we would be calling down. If it's an unknown, again, probably fine just to get away from your hand quite often. Probably end up check calling the turn quite often and then just check river. You know, there's probably a fair number of unknowns that would just barrel the 8 thinking they're value betting and then just give up on the river because they're concerned about the king or the 9. That's going to be a close one for sure. That's a very close one. Because it's such a dry, uncoordinated flop, you are supposed to float pretty liberally with your backdoor straight draws, flush draw combos. And that the 9 is a particularly potent one because a lot of players will barrel that as a semi-bluff. So instincts say probably call. Playing against regs is no fun. Playing regs is no fun. Let's VPIP here. King 9 of hearts. All right, heads up for the jewels. Heads up for the jewels. Nyama says, maybe a weird question, but if your opponent calls correct range pre-flop, let's say Nash, and therefore cannot be exploited, wouldn't it be possible to shove tighter? And is that way... Sorry, mate. Let me reread this. Oh, this would be a sick exploit. This would be a sick exploit. Can we get him to fold a 4? Cool. Maybe a weird question, but if your opponent calls correct range preflop, let's say Nash, and therefore cannot be exploited, wouldn't it be possible to shove it tighter, and is that way be kind of ahead of most of the time? So yes, there's a sort of a bit of a there's a bit of an explanation here, Nyama. Let me help you with this. Wasn't that what the other regs were doing against you when you started the 50K challenge? So there's two. Yes, kind of, but not really. Okay, let me see if I can explain this properly while we're playing. So your calling range is not correct if it is not adjusted for their shoving range. So like one of the things that I spoke about a lot in the course that I put together for PokerStars Learn, I did a whole breakdown of this, but basically, for the most part, if you are attacking in a way which is Nash or unexploitable or GTO, if you are acting first and you're playing according to the strategy, most of what you do will be very good or optimal or at least solid against most players. Because that strategy is assuming that you're playing against somebody very good, and therefore it usually outperforms because most people will not play very well post-flop, right? So it's developing a strategy that is not only based on sort of pre-flop expectations, but it's also developing a strategy based on your opponent's, the assumption that your opponent will play very well post-flop. In fact, they'll play close to perfect post-flop from a Nash perspective, okay? So when you are studying a strategy and you're looking at, for example, shoving ranges, if you know the correct shoving range and you employ that strategy, it is impossible for your opponents to exploit that strategy, right? Because the best that they can do to counter your perfect shoving strategy, if you're playing a game, for example, where you have to push fold, the best thing that they can do is to call correctly. And if they don't, then they obviously leak EV to you. However, if it comes in the opposite direction. So for example, the way you're describing it is, if we are calling unexploitably, it's only unexploitable on the basis that your opponent is shoving the correct range, right? So when we're talking about the way that GTO reacts, GTO's reaction is almost always broken from a reality perspective, right? The assumptions that we make when we're looking at how to defend correctly against an aggressive first action is based on the assumption your opponent is attacking correctly. So it's the same for like big blind defense, right? If you are playing in an MTT and you're like, I have to defend the big blind this percentage of the time, it's usually not that bad because, you know, for the most part, you're calling one big blind or whatever. But a lot of times what people will forget is that a lot of players that they're defending against are not opening as wide as they should. So immediately you're kind of leaking EV because the range that you're defending is not going to perform as well as it should against their tighter range. Now, for the most part, you can make up that EV in other places through the decision tree. So defending correctly is kind of one of those things where it's like a very low cost, easily recoverable amount of EV that you lose when you're calling against a tighter range. But in this extreme example, like when it's for the game, the calling range is not what I would call unexploitable, right? What you're doing is you're saying, if you're playing strictly a toy game where it's push fold, if you're playing push fold Nash, the player that is all in with the correct range can be unexploitable, close to unexploitable. And the best way to counter that so that you are not exploitable is to know exactly what to call against that range, right? But if that range is broken in any way, shape, or form, you're kind of exploiting yourself by calling too wide. Now, it wasn't that the regs were necessarily exploiting me by shoving a tighter range. It was probably more like the regs by their human nature were shoving a tighter range because that feels better. There's probably a decent amount of science behind that anyway, right? Just to have a tighter range than expectation is good because people are probably going to assume that you're shoving the right range and then over adjust. But it wasn't necessarily an exploit. It was more just the sort of human nature of the way that humans actually play. So just as a general rule of thumb, that was a lot of words. As a general rule of thumb, if you are studying a strategy and you are first to act and you're taking an aggressive action, that's almost always going to be very good, a very good starting point. And you can think of reasons to do different stuff, right? Like if you know your opponent is going to jam against any two open, then you want to have more traps, or or you want to min raise, tighter because your opponent is going to shove 7 deuce off, and you're going to be forced to fold the weakest part of your min raise range or whatever, right? So there are ways that you can exploit better than GTO, but for the most part, if you're taking an aggressive action that you've studied from a strategy that you've learned via GTO, it will be very solid or very good against most opponents as a starting point. So what you might want to think about, for example, is when you get really shallow and you're playing against a more passive opponent, probably the best way to exploit that opponent is to limp speculative hands more aggressively. So limp 100% of your range and position even when you get shallow, because they're not raising enough versus limp. So you get to VPIP more. You can play more hands in position, which is better for your bottom line. You probably want to take some of the more marginal shoves where they're like just like a little bit, like if you're thinking about like king 5 off or something, you can shove that at like 10 big blinds effective or 9 or whatever it is. Those are probably the kinds of hands where if your opponent wakes up with a hand, you're kind of fucked, but they're not going to exploit the fact that you're over limping, so you can put those into limps. You want to see more flops with hands that make big hands so you can kind of catch your opponent off from out of position. And then also you want to look at the sort of higher value, medium strength or weak shoves and realize that your opponent probably isn't calling the right range. And therefore, once you get to 6 big blinds effective, the shoves become very profitable. The ones that don't play as well post flop. So like hands like 8-7 suited are probably very good hands to take to a flop. But if you're looking at like 10-7 suited or like 7-4 suited and stuff like that, we know that you can shove those profitably from a Nash perspective, but your opponents will also overfold, but you're not losing that much by not taking them post flop as a call. So there's a lot of different ways to think about it, but yeah. We have to be careful when we're using the word unexploitable sort of defend or unexploitable call, because if you're reacting to an opponent's aggressive action, whatever is unexploitable in that spot is predicated 100% on whether or not your opponent is doing the right thing, or you can work it out if you know what your opponent's strategy is. So remember that when you look at like a pre-solve on GTO Wizard, the reaction is based on the input and the input is based on raw GTO. However, you can node lock your opponents and learn what the exploit is against the unbalanced range. So if, for example, you know for a fact your opponents aren't going to shove 5-6 suited, 8-7 suited, 9-10 off, 8-7 off at 7 big blinds effective, you can paint those as calls or min raises or whatever you think they're going to be, probably calls at that stack depth, and then work out what the actual unexploitable calling range looks like. Thank you for the follow. All right, so we are playing for $100. We might even get heads up against the player on our left. We have played with this player a bit, not tons. Don't have any notes. All right, heads up for the $100. See what we can do. Trapping ace-8 of hearts. Any traps about? Okay, trap ineffective, but we are developing into a combo draw. Straight draw, flush draw, ace high as well. Okay, so ace high on the river must be the nuts, right? Must be the nuts here. No chance he has a 6. No chance he has a king. That is totally fine. I got it. I just found the wording exploitative. Good, good. I'm glad you got that, QB. Namaya says, yeah, thank you. Good explanation. The reason I'm asking this because I often find myself in a scenario where I call a hand and I'm constantly against ace, ice, king, x, queen, x, and not much else. And I remember you face similar things. So that if you're, depending on what stakes you're playing, your calling ranges should probably be significantly tighter than GTO, like way tighter. So yeah, I mean the solution is just to call tighter, but you want to kind of have some way of working it out, right? You want to be noting people who you think are playing more tables. If they're playing more tables, they'll know more GTO and then they'll have a wider range. If they are playing fewer tables, they'll be less experienced. If you've played them one time in the history of your life, they're probably a complete random and they're just going to be shoving very linear. As you get shallower, you still want to adjust because hands have like equity, right? So even though like Jack 10 suited might not be ahead of their shoving, like of what they're shoving most of the time, as we get shallower and the effective stacks are smaller, like sometimes you just want to be all in with 48% equity on average or whatever. Do you know what I mean? But like, yeah, you can do like an experiment, right? So I don't know if you might not have access, Nayama, but if you did like a node lock where you just gave them like a very basic, I'm shoving all my aces, I'm shoving all my kings, I'm shoving all my queens, I'm shoving all my pairs. If you did that experiment and you cut out most of the middle stuff, you'd be surprised how much tighter it is. It's like way tighter. We can just shove this. I think probably we're still limping it though. Yeah, so if you're playing the fives, Nayama, generally people are just not going to have the right range. Tell you what we'll do. After this game, I'll do you a really quick example because I know this will really help you personally. I am tempted to just bet twice here. We pick up a gut shot on the turn. Don't think he has a king that often. So let's semi-bluff, and sometimes we'll hit the 8 if we get called. Get a 3 to fold, get the clubs to folds. Sometimes even a 10. And we go for it here with the king queen. Ba-bam! Ba-bam! All right, $100. All right, Nayama, don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. Let me help you. All right, I'm going to close stars. So Poker Stars is now completely closed. The client is shut. And I'm going to open up GTO Wizard now, okay? So if you guys are watching this and you're going, oh my God, I gotta get GTO Wizard. We're just studying, okay? This is a study session now. We're getting close to the study session time anyway, so this isn't too weird. All right, so let me take you over here, and we'll do a really quick basic version, right? So let's take a look at study. Let's take a look at heads up. And let's take a look at, like, a good example is like 8 big blinds effective, okay? So at 8 big blinds effective, you can see all these hands that want to shove. And I can almost guarantee you that most people are not shoving these hands at all. Like, they don't even know that you can shove these profitably. So this is what the range looks like against an all-in, right? This is your calling range. 10-7 suited is in there, okay? 10-7 suited is a call versus shove at this stack depth, right? Just for reference, let's leave this one open and let's duplicate, and we'll do a quick node lock, okay? So if we change this, let's do a custom solution, new solution. We're looking at 8 big blinds effective, and we're looking at pre-flop with 2 players, chippy V, 8 big blinds effective with limps. Let's just double check that this is right. This isn't correct. Small blind is going to delete this one. Let's assume that it is. Let's just leave the min raise in there. It won't exist, but that's fine. And then let's say that we are raising, all in call. Okay, fine. All in, fold call, fine. This is close enough. This is close enough. So this is approximately the same as this, right? It's close enough for us to be happy that this is going to be pretty accurate, right? These two look pretty much identical. It's slightly different with the 2.2 in there. 2.2 just won't exist as a min raise, basically. Oh, this is even... Okay, cool. Yeah, this is... Wait, this is the original one. No, sorry. This is the original one. So let's include a min raise in here as well, just for the sake of consistency. So if you look at these two, almost identical, right? Good enough. Now, this is the one that we're going to node lock, right? So let's assume that this one is the good one. This is the node lock. If we node lock this now, and we assume that our opponents aren't shoving those hands, right? Let's say that they're just going to call these hands instead. In fact, they probably fold some of these hands, which is interesting. So we don't want to go too extreme. Let's keep the kings in there. I think at 8 big blinds effective, some of this is probably reasonable. They're not doing these. They're not doing these too often. Let's not go too crazy, because like I just want to, this is more exploratory just to show you kind of what I'm talking about. I would say Jack 10 is a hand people like to jam. And then also we want to make sure we're thinking about the rest of it, right? They're not going to mix these at all. They're just going to shove these. Let's say that they're shoving all these. They're probably not even going to trap these, but whatever. Let's just assume they're shoving all their pairs up to probably tens. It's definitely calling these, not shoving these, might shove that. So, you get what I'm saying, right? So let's just say that they're shoving quite a linear range here. Let's assume they always shove queen jack. King 9 for sure. Call. Okay, so this is a little bit more realistic. This is a little bit more like what I think, complete unknowns might do at the $5 stakes. Even then, this is probably still not quite right. It's probably safe to assume they would shove some of this as well. But if we apply this and we look at the response now. So this is the original range, and you can see it's merging a bunch of this stuff here. This is the updated range. Now let's assume that we're all in. This is what our calling range looks like now compared to this. Look at the difference on this. Ignore the dark number here. That's still a call. I don't know why it does that sometimes, but so this is the original. This is our new range. Original, new range. Original, new range. It is miles tighter because all of that middling stuff just doesn't exist. We could do an even less extreme version of this. Like if we reverted this, if we unlock and apply, let me see if it'll go back. I keep forgetting how to unlock and go back to the original strategy. What's this one? To unlock previous nodes. We don't want that one. Unlock. Okay, I can't remember how to do it. There's a way to go back. Oh, show initial strategy. Oh, that was the initial strategy when we messed with it. Okay, where is it? Anyway, I'm not gonna go through it now. You get my point. You get my point. Oh, that was the original strategy now. Okay, cool. So it has gone back. Never mind. Okay, cool. So we can do this again. Let's do an even less extreme version. Let's assume that they're not going to shove just the absolute worst stuff. Or the stuff that is like most not obvious, right? So a lot of people not realizing you can shove 5-3 suited, 7-4 suited. Let's include some of the stronger stuff that's a bit more obvious. Let's just even take out, you know, this is all not that crazy. These probably not. This probably not. This probably not. Even if we do something that resembles this, and then we assume that the all-ins are pairs, pairs, pairs. People hate limping these smaller pairs. Let's say that they're still going to trap eights once in a while. They're always going to shove these. Okay, so this is a less extreme example. Let's apply this. So this is our adjusted version, is it? Oh, sorry, I gotta lock this. One sec. That's annoying. Let's try this again. Let's include those. Anyway, you get my point. Doesn't have to be perfect. Something like that. I don't know. And then we do the all-in. You can still see how much tighter it is. So, you know, a pretty decent wedge coming out. But as soon as your opponents don't have loads of those sort of like suited connector jams, you start to call with what looks like a pretty like standard range, right? Like these hands have equity. They still want to be in there. Like I said, Jack 10 suited, 10-9 suited, that kind of thing. Just high cards. The better the high card, the better. All the pairs, all the aces. Anyway, you get my point. All right, we're going to close up GTO Wiz. And let's play some more poker with that turned off now. Let's try and get a couple more games in. Let's play like 1 or 2 more games, then we'll do some review. Hello, Team 651. Good to see you, buddy. Yeah, I know what you mean. Sometimes I sort of blind down waiting for stronger hand to call or shove. So that's kind of the problem, right? Because you do have to wait longer to find the right setup. So it's important that you don't miss the high equity spots, right? It's not always about having the best hand every time. It's about having enough equity to call against their range, which includes calling with a hand that's like worse than ace 5, but still having 48% equity, right? Something like that. All right, let's carry on then. Here we go. Let's play 1 or 2 more games, and then we will we'll pause for review. No problem, Naima. I hope that helps. I mean, if you wanted as well, you could open up the stream in the VOD and then just screenshot that graph that I sent you or the chart that I just sent you, just to kind of like get an idea for like how much tighter you want to be. I think the first node lock we did, I think the first node lock is probably too tight or too far from reality. This is kind of more illustrative. But definitely, you're not going to go too far wrong thinking about it in those terms. All right, so I'm running like God. What we'll do is we'll play this one game. Let me just go check on the whereabouts of my friend Jake Berry, because he's coming very shortly to help with some plumbing. We're getting the shower sorted out, and then also need to install an electronic central heating thing. And then we'll do some review until Jake gets here. We've got quite a few hands to cover. God, hands in the gold. Running like God. We're calling a shove here if we need to. King 9 diamonds, good trap here. This is a tricky one, gang. I have problems with this hand because I know Lionel is very capable of bluffing, and this is a really good board for them to attack versus limp. Check flop, excuse me. So we're going to try. That's it. That's what we got to be aware of. If the board doesn't double pair, there's a chance they blast off, and we have to call with king high sometimes. But our hand is very, very strong. King 9 suited heads up is just a really strong hand, I'm afraid. King and a queen. King and a queen. Yeah, we're gonna limp. We're calling a shove if we need to. Second pair, good kicker. Probably merits a bet here. Getting check raised on this board is really sad, though. Really sad story. Checking the flop is also kind of a sad story, though, as well. This one will be just inside the shoving cusp. Jack deuce. Not going to make the cut here at the stack depth. King seven's a call here if we need to. Wish me luck, guys. Yeah, pretty textbook here from Lionel, though. Pretty textbook for the 8-7 of hearts. We get unlucky, we dominate that hand. All right, let me just go check on Jake, guys. I'll be back in 2 moments. And then we'll do some review, so don't go anywhere.
I put my last $10 in. This game's a game that I can't win, but if I fold, I'm in the win. I don't think it's right to ask you not to play, but if you fold your cards, that's okay. And if you win it, I hope it makes you happy. You don't have to tell me. Ooh, chips in the middle. It's a shame the world's so brittle, but all it takes is one more shuffle. All it takes is one more shuffle. Ooh, you're the dealer now. When you said it so proud. Your cards are all face down. I don't think it's right to ask you not to play, but if you fold your cards, that's okay. Yeah. And if you're winning it, I hope it makes you happy. Shuffle.
Right, sorry about that, guys. Right, I think everything's in order. Let's go ahead and get into our review sesh here. Okay, so we're going to take a look at some of these hands with our study material, and today we'll be using GTO Wizard and also the NickWalshTV chart pack, available for purchase on my website. If you're interested, pretty much every single spin and go spot solved pre-flop, so you have a point of reference to try and figure out if you're doing stuff right. Let's close up Stars. Stars is now officially closed. And let's get into the study. All right, so first things first, Queen 9 suited. We are min-raising this. Our opponent calls. Barrel. Okay, yeah, so this is a post-flop one. So we come in for the min-raise pre-flop. I think so far so good from a GTO perspective. Once we arrive here, I think betting small is pretty much what we want to do most of the time. We also have 2 overcards and backdoor clubs to the second pair. So I think, so far so good. On the turn, we hit the 9. I think checking is quite natural. Our opponent bets. At this point, like I said, I think 6-7 of clubs, 6-7 of hearts is definitely very conceivable. I don't know if an 8 plays this way that often is what's somewhat problematic, right? Because if our opponent has second pair, this is a reg as well, so you're going to expect them to play, more sensibly. Once we get here, are we calling with a 9, basically, is the question. Looking this one up from a GTO perspective is weird because you kind of have to assume your opponent is playing very well up until this point, or you're playing very close to what the computer does. Let's just look it up and see if there's anything we can learn, because I don't know. I'm a bit undecided about this one. The other thing that we want to look up, which is more important than whether or not this is a call in the river from a GTO perspective, is we want to look up if our assumptions are correct about how wide we're supposed to float this flop. So actually all double ticks. So against the reg, we are, 2 double ticks and 2. So yeah, the preflop isn't always going to be played this way, but it is played like that on some occasion. So if we start here, guys, the preflop, this is going to be a call or a raise. So this is where it's giving me a single tick because it is part of the strategy. It's not the most frequently played strategy, which is fine. But once we arrive here, all good. Our bet of 1 is like almost 100%. On the turn, betting again is definitely going to be a thing. I think checking is also going to be fine. We lose almost no EV in the process. Once we get here, gotta call. And then once we arrive on this river and opponent shoves, it's 100% call. So we have played this hand well. We can only really say we've played this hand well if it's against a thinking sort of like, more experienced player, because unknown opponents will very infrequently turn up with the right hands on this river anyway. If we look here, let's take a look at whether or not my assumptions are correct. So in order for this to be a good call, I think a really important part of the strategy is your opponent has to be defending against the 1 big blind bet. A lot of players, if they don't have a king or they don't have an 8, they're just going to fold. This hand becomes very bad very quickly. Now, do I think that Oro is going to be playing correctly? Probably. I would say Oro is an experienced player. At this point, we changed them from a blue to a yellow just earlier today. So if we take a look at the strategy versus bet 1 big blind, my assumption is if you have a backdoor straight draw, backdoor flush draw, you must call. Queen high, probably calling a lot of the time even without that. Jack high, probably sticking around some of the time. So if we take a look, this is the flop. We've bet 1 big blind. This is the defend range. So hands that are calling, 65% of hands are calling here. So you can see why it's not enough just to go, hey, I put it in the computer and the computer said yes. It's only yes if everything else makes sense and if you think your opponent's strategy is similar to what's happening. Do I think people are calling with 6-7 here? So it's, yeah, okay. So immediately our assumption is correct. 6-7 of hearts was one of the exact combos that I discussed. 6-7 of clubs exactly, 6-7 of spades exactly. Even 6-7 of diamonds, that is just the backdoor straight draw, wants to stick around about half the time. Are people doing that? Probably not. So we start to get a better idea about how accurate the later decision points are. So we want to keep it realistic. The stronger kings do want to raise. I would say probably this is balanced by hands like 10-5 suited, right? If you have the backdoor heart draw, backdoor spades, backdoor clubs here, having the 10 is actually particularly useful because you're blocking a king 10 steal. You also end up having, other ways to win the pot on later streets as well. Having that 10 is just an interesting one in general. Having the queen is also another good one. Those kind of make up more of the stronger king X combos. So at a low frequency, if you have queen deuce here, and you have the backdoor draw, putting in a raise here versus the steal is quite cute because your opponents will have fewer king queens, king tens, right? It doesn't happen often because the float just performs very well as it is. But yeah, okay, cool. So we are correct in the assumption that the defends need to be wide. Against a reg, we can assume that they're wide enough for this call down to be good, even though we look like a moron when we do it. And so on that basis, I think this is probably confirmed. We've done okay here. But it's also fun to do this experiment where we look at exactly how wide we're supposed to be calling on this flop. Aces for sure. Kings for sure. Eights mandatory. Trays mandatory. But then also all the stuff that I just described, and even stuff that, you know, like Jack 9 just is in there. It's just Jack high. Queen high is in there. So yeah, our assumptions are kind of correct here, and a lot of these hands will have to bluff in order to win the pot as they don't improve. So even wider than anticipated, and I think that probably means we're doing this one fine. I'm happy with this one. This is good. So 10-8 suited, we're in with a call. There is a shove, and we're calling a shove. So we don't even need to get GTO Wizard out for this one. We can open up the old NickWalshTV chart pack. So this is a 9 big blind spot. And if you guys haven't seen this before, this is what the chart pack looks like. If you're interested in just finding the spot really quickly, it's easy. You go into images. I've painstakingly screenshotted all these images already. Heads up in the, let's just do the basic one. Heads up in the small blind. First of all, we start the hand at 9. So 9 big blinds effective, 10-8 suited is still going to be one of flat most of the time. So here you go. It's right on the cusp of shoving and raising. 10-8 suited is here, so a little bit more call than raise, but whatever, it's fine. Then once we're facing the all-in, this is the ISO all-in at 9. 10-8 suited, miles within a call. It's 2 combinations within a call. So I suppose the only other thing I would say is this is less effective against unknown players, but 10-8 suited is one of those combos that just has tons of equity. So unless your opponent's very tight, you probably just kind of want to be in there with a call here quite often. All right, sevens, limp trap, and we arrive here. So again, against a very good reg, we put in a bet. I think betting this board is fine. I think that GTO will check this some of the time too. I think betting is probably going to be slightly better because players won't defend against the bet often enough. But once we get check raised here, we want to be aware of the fact that we need to be defending very, very aggressively. Against this opponent, I think we need to really stick to our guns and play the game because they're going to exploit us most readily. So let's analyze the spot and see if there is any backup there. Okay, so this one is, let's just go from the top. So we can call, we can raise, obviously understandable, that's fine. And once we arrive here on the flop, GTO wants to 100% check. In fact, the bet is very, very, very different from the bet. So we probably have something to learn here. Let's take a look at this. So 4s don't mind betting. They need more protection. 5s don't mind betting. They need more protection. 6s, 7s, 8s all want to check. 9s are betting for value. 10s are betting for value. Okay, that's really interesting. So actually, the check might be a considerable mistake here. Let's kind of assume... Let's assume that we have something more like 5s here, just for the sake of argument, and we go to the turn. Let's say we have a bet, and our opponent does check raise to 2.5. I'm assuming we have to continue calling with our pairs. So even though it's not exactly the same, 5s are effectively the same as 7s in this spot, right? It's like your opponent either has a king or an 8 or he doesn't. When we actually take a look at what is supposed to check raise here, you might be surprised at some of the answers. So the 8s are in there a fair amount. The kings are going to be in there a fair amount as well, in particular the weaker kings. But also, going back to what we were discussing just a moment ago, it's like literally 10 tray because you have a backdoor heart draw, a backdoor club draw, a backdoor spade. It's literally 9-3 where we have one overcard to second pair here. And you got the backdoor straight draw, flush draw, sorry, backdoor straight draw, backdoor spades, hearts, clubs. So we start to see kind of a pattern of like, you know, hands that like to be check raised at a small frequency. But overall, if we can confirm that we are supposed to be calling with the 5s, let's just continue as though we have 5s and we call. And now we arrive on the turn, which is the deuce of spades. So our opponent here decides to bet 2.5, which is actually a really unusual size. you would anticipate that a king or an 8 wants to continue barreling larger or even check. So the most frequent size that they're going to use here is bet 3. If they have a bet. So again, it's not a million miles off, but let's assume that our opponent does bet 3. I'm assuming that the 5s and the 4s still need to call. Yeah, okay, cool. So even though we want to recognize that 6s and 7s are better played as a check on the flop, I'm totally happy to accept that. We can also assume that they play very similarly to 5s and 4s. So there's a way for us to kind of extrapolate the fact that there's a way that you can extrapolate that our play is probably still what you want to do. Now, let's assume that we get to the river, which was the 4 of clubs. And now our opponent is all in. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So the 4s make the boat. The 5s are going to be a bit of a mix. So I would say probably through extrapolation, we can work out that we played our hand fine against another reg. And like a lot of our assumptions here are correct, despite the fact that we missed the check on the flop. So this is good. We've kind of learned something, even though it isn't exactly the way that we wanted to learn it. Call king 5 and a shove. I'm pretty sure this is a mandatory call. Again, this is one for the Nick Walsh TV chart pack. We don't need to do any fancy database referencing for that. All right, so for example, images. Let's call this 9.5 or 10. Effective. Heads up, small blind, and we are at 9. Okay, so king 5 suited. Going to be a smidge of call. If we're deeper, which we are, we're actually closer to 10. King 5 suited, still a flat. Facing the ISO all in at 10 big blinds effective. King 5 suited, still a call. Perfect. Yep, all good, especially against the reg. All right, so 6-5 suited. We decide to call here. I wonder if we're allowed. No, this will be a flat probably. Okay, if this one's post flop, we'll do this in GTO Wiz. I think I put in a float here with the gut shot. There might be a raise on this flop rather than a flat. That might be better. And our opponent bets and we fold. Okay, cool. So let's just take a look at this one again. Same program, upload. Cool, perfect play. Double ticks all around. Let's take a look at the flop just really quick to see if there is any raising. So basically, flatting pre-flop 100% probably, yeah, that's fine. 6-5 suited is a call versus the steel blind, V blind at 14 big blinds effective, or 15, excuse me. Once we face the half pot bet, which again I think is probably a lesser use size, I would anticipate a bet of 1 or 3 is more often. Yep, cool. So it's good to confirm your thought process here. Once we have this hand specifically, 6-5 is right here. So 6-5 offsuit just flatting, 6-5 suited just flatting like 100%. Cool. This is not a combo that we want to raise with. If we had a worse straight draw, probably raising some of the time. Trying to think 5-7 suited. No, not 5-7. 7 tray. Okay, yeah, no, fair enough. Because we're in position, it plays very differently. But overall, that is going to be good. My baby left me out to dry. Cool. 10-4 suited here. Now, we played this as a push at around 9-10 big blinds effective. 10-4 suited, I think, is Nash, but I think this might just be a steal, not all in. Let's take a look here and see what they say. Yeah, so let's take a look. If we just do this, we'll find it. It's just going to be a steal, isn't it? Yeah, it's the raise, not all in. It's not the shove. But just out of interest, if we take a look at the heads up Nash chart, I'm pretty sure 10-4 suited is a push. 10-4 suited 10.5. So yeah, it's on the cusp of profitability as a jam. So we don't actually lose any EV in this spot, basically. If we take a look at the all-in, it's pretty much bang on break even in terms of EV gain. The steal is only marginally in there. Now, again, whenever we see these numbers, you might say, oh, is it even worth playing this hand if it's really that small EV? In reality, this probably outperforms this by like a huge margin. So again, probably fine for us to just follow the rules. But happy that this is still Nash, even though I had my suspicions. That's why we looked it up. And the 8-7 we play as a jam. Now this one, I'm sure that this is going to be fine at a low frequency, but I think 8-7 is going to be maybe an option to, it's going to check most of the time, of course. At a low frequency, we might see a shove or a raise to like 3.5 or 4 big blinds. Let's take a gander at the actual solve again. So yeah, pre-flop, as I said. So it's either going to be the raise to 4 or it's going to be a check most of the time. So we're definitely on the money here. That's why I flagged this one, because I'm pretty sure this is a candidate for a large raise. If we look at the NickWalshTV chart pack, however, let's take a look at our version. Heads up in the big blind versus a limp at 11. So 8-7 offsuit here is going to be a raise to 4 or an all-in. It's a smidge of all-in, but it does exist. And like we said, sorry, it's right here. It's a smidge of both, but it does exist. And we did roll very, very low, which is why it went in. So we're randomizing these, so we're getting them at the right frequency. That might be Jake, guys. 1 second. Hello. Hey, man. All right, guys, we're going to have to skip the last few ones of these because Jake is here to help me out. He's doing me a favor. I got to go. But this is fine. I'm okay with this one. If we actually look at... if we take a look at this again... So if we take a look at this again, guys, and we are in the big blind, sorry, we're in the small blind. If we go for the simple version with just the push, small blind versus ISO, no, big blind, sorry, versus limp at 11. This is the simplified version. You can see how often the jam is going to be completely viable. So the solver wants to use one of our dynamic like 1/3 stack sizings here because it does give us a lot of fold equity while also giving us a way out because we can raise fold this. But if you're looking at a simplified version, this EV will be extremely close. So the jam here is going to be totally fine. And just seeing the 4x ISO is confirmation that the jam is probably still going to be just as viable in terms of profitability. So this is all good. Let's just do one more. I let Jake in the door so he can start. Just wanted to double check. We're not going to shove King 6 suited here. This is another pre-flopper. Images, 3-way, small blind versus button min raise. We are at, let's call this 11. Yeah, it's just not a thing. But I do know that we're actually going to be doing that a little bit deeper. I'm confusing myself with another range. But yeah, the fold is correct here. Happy days. We're not going to over adjust. So that is a wrap for today, guys. I got a dash. My friend Jake is here to help me with some plumbing stuff, like I said. But we're making progress. We're heading in the right direction. Today's session, a bit of a rough one. In fact, the session before today's session that I did offline was particularly brutal. But we're just grinding through it, guys. We are improving every day, and we've got some really good hands for reviews, so we can at least learn as we're going. I'm going to sign off there for now. Love you all very much. I'll see you guys tomorrow around the 2 p.m. mark again for more spinning goes, and we'll continue to build upon this lovely graph. By the way, this graph is this is all the spinning goes that we've played since the start of the merge. So you guys can see we're heading in a better direction, and yeah, I'm hoping for a big upswing to try and save our current chip EV, but we're getting there. Love you guys. See you tomorrow.